So we're seeing the aftermath of what had happened after Yakumaru had shot Cross at the end of the previous chapter. It turns out that Cross is like in a coma, and his wounds can't be healed by reverse curse technique. This is interesting because I thought that's how it was going to be solved. Not necessarily by a doctor or whatever, as we're going to see in this chapter, but I thought just Cross himself would just have reverse curse technique because he's pretty powerful. It's implied that he and Maru are kind of like prodigies with this stuff. I mean, they were able to almost, I don't know, single-handedly create the Sumerian spaceship? I mean, that still remains to be seen, but it seems that way. Now, of course, the Sumerians are very upset with what had happened, but not only Cross is in a coma, we're also seeing that Usami is in one as well. He's kind of like in a cursed coma or whatever, because we're coming back to the moment at the end of the previous chapter when Dborah had shown up right after Cross got shot, and we're seeing that he's just an absolute beast. Like, I don't even know if this can be called aura farming. It's something more than that. It's actually aura paralysis, I suppose, because everyone is just frozen in fear because of how powerful this freak is. And Dborah is reminded of his promise that he made to Dora at the end of the flashback, like when we found out why he is even with the Rumelians at this point and why the Rumelians came to Earth and everything. It was, you know, he'll protect the Rumelians because Dborah himself is not a Rumelian. Yes, they are all Sumerians, but there's like different races of them. Dborah is a Deskunte, which aren't really tied to the Kallians at all. They actually kind of dislike them, but we'll get into that. And Dborah goes up to Yakumaru and he's like, was it you? Are you the one who shot Cross? And then suddenly Usami comes behind Dborah and surprisingly tries to use cursed speech on him, telling him not to move, but it doesn't matter. Dborah instantly takes off Yakumaru's arm. And at first they're like, he was too fast, but it seems like it didn't even really matter because he's just beasting through cursed speech. Like, it's not affecting him at all, seemingly. And because of this, Usami's being hit with cursed speech recoil. Like, he's stroking out because of Dborah just brute forcing through the cursed speech command. Like, even Sukuna was susceptible to Inumaki's cursed speech at the end of the first series. I mean, granted, that was like an end of series, you know, last thing Inumaki does. So that couldn't really spoil his last moment. But still, I guess this means that Dborah is stronger than Sukuna. At least Sukuna in his nerfed form at the end of the first series. And speaking of that, at the beginning of this chapter, they straight up say that Dborah's power can't be measured by the sorcerer ranking system, meaning that he is above special grade, which Sukuna was in my opinion, although they never outright said it, they still did classify him as a special grade, but this is just taking the Dborah hype to a whole new level. And while Usami is like still conscious, he's like, please forgive our rudeness, and we apologize for what had happened to Cross. I'm begging you, please, just let's talk this over at another time, give us another chance. And Dborah's like, Cross might die with those injuries. I will take the lives of your subordinates. And everyone's just shook. And Usami's like, no, please have mercy on us. Just take my life instead. And in this moment, Usami reminds Dborah of Dora. Dora, I guess, is like the Rumelian equivalent of Dborah, although not nearly as strong. But I guess you could also say he was kind of like the Gojo to Maru and Cross. And Dborah wound up killing him in like their duel that they had to have between the Deskunte and the Rumelians back on Sumeria. He was kind of forced to do it because they took his sister and like put a curse on her or whatever. Sorry if I keep like bringing up old stuff and reminding you guys of things and explaining things you already know. It's just because I know not everybody is like a returning viewer to this video. A lot of people that watch my reviews kind of just find them through browse or whatever, and maybe they're just casual Jujutsu Modulo fans. And that being said, hey, subscribe if you haven't already, guys. We're almost at 300k. We got about a month left to get there before the end of the year. I always review Modulo chapters every Sunday. I also get out the spoilers on Thursdays. That's not guaranteed every time, but I'm trying. And definitely going to be covering season 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen once it starts airing in January. And also, guys, if we can get 3,000 likes on this video, that might be too much, but I think we could do it. Hit the like button on your phone. I'm sure you're watching it on there. It'll really help the video and it'll help me. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. But Dborah being reminded of Dora through Usami here, he kind of respects him, I guess. And he's like, okay, you know, whatever. We're returning now, Chapaloma. And he decides to not kill anybody, at least for now. And as he's walking away, he's like, once again, it's the Callians. Which he kind of seems annoyed almost by this, or at least frustrated, because, you know, like we were talking about, he's a Discunte, and the Discuntes aren't tied to the Callians, not through religion or through cursed energy, the way that the Rumelians are. And a lot of the beef that the Discunte have with the Rumelians back on Cimmeria is because of the Callians, because the Rumelians allow the Callians to have like their own land, and the Discunte kind of want to have that land, but the Callians and the Rumelians, you know, conflict with that, especially like the Callians straight up just killing people or attacking them that aren't Rumelians, such as like the Discunte. In fact, the Callians actually killed the Discunte chieftain's daughter, and that's why Dborah was chosen to fight in that duel against the Rumelians and wound up killing Dborah. So he's like, you know, once again, it's the freaking Callians. I hate these things, but, you know, I made a promise to Dborah that I'm going to protect the Rumelians. And as we've also established, it's not literally the Callians, it's the cursed spirits, but the Rumelians are just so stubborn that they choose to just fully accept that cursed spirits on Earth are just Callians. And that being said, the Japanese government responds to this by just halting the extermination of cursed spirits, trying to like cool things down and not rile up the Cimmerians or the Rumelians anymore. But of course they can't do this forever, because they established in the previous chapter that they're maintaining the cursed spirits inside of Tokyo by having a barrier around it, but also doing like intermittent exterminations or cullings of them so they don't get out of control. But if they do that, then they're just going to start leaking out of Tokyo regardless of the barriers. So they ultimately decide that like 1 month is their limit. So they decide to not kill cursed spirits for like a month, I guess. And then we're just having a time skip, and we're going 1 month later into December of 2086. And we find out that they're secretly exercising the curses because they kind of have to. And of course, the Rumelians find out about this because Otsuki on the ship is like listening in to Tokyo, you know, with like his jujutsu sense or whatever. And he knows for sure that they're still killing the cursed spirits because he's still crying. And also he can like hear the true voices of cursed spirits. So after this, the Cimmerians send a message. They're like, hey, we consider you killing the cursed spirits an international crime. Therefore, you're going to have to take international responsibility. And the Japanese government's like, no, actually, you know, we kind of have to do this. It's a force majeure, meaning like, you know, we're not responsible for contractual obligations. Like if something like a natural disaster happens, which, you know, freaking cursed spirits are. And also it's just nonsense that the Rumelians are doing this anyway. I mean, it's very compelling for the story, of course, but just in general, it's like, what are you doing? Stop. You don't even live here. This isn't even your planet. But they continue to take out curses, and this is further upsetting the Rumelians. And Otsuki winds up telling Dborah, he's like, you know, you can't even hear the voices of the Callians, but I can. After all, you're just a Discunte outsider. And he's like, I'm sorry, Jabaloma, but Otsuki's right. I am nothing but a Discunte warrior. And I guess him saying this makes him realize, well, I might as well make myself useful and put the hammer to the nail. And then we find out that the Cimmerians have this big proposal, and it's that to protect the cursed spirits from further being killed, that they want to establish a new Rumelian government within Tokyo. And that if the government refuses, then they're going to do a duel as the way of the Discunte. So it's come to the point that we thought it was going to once this concept was introduced back in the flashback when, you know, we saw Dborah kill Dborah. And the government refuses because while it would just be easy to give the Rumelians or the Cimmerians Tokyo, since humans can't live there anyway, that's not really the issue. It's the whole issue of them keeping cursed spirits from being killed. Like, Earth just can't continue to be that way because cursed spirits would just kill humanity if left unchecked. Which is interesting because it's like, why aren't they killing the Cimmerians? I wonder if Gege is going to explore that anymore. But we see them discussing this duel, and they're like, well, nominating anyone but Yuji to duel Dborah would be out of the question, which we were talking about a couple weeks back when this duel concept was introduced. So yes, we were justified in our speculations that that was probably going to lead to Dborah taking on Yuji, but it's not that simple because it turns out that Dborah, who first of all is still alive, is giving a testimonial on what's going on with Yuji. By the way, Dborah would be, I guess, in her 80s at this point. It's really hard to see what she fully looks like, but it seems like she's doing pretty well for herself. And she says, the last time that I saw Yuji was at Hannah's funeral, and he said that he wouldn't be going to any more funerals. He might look like a musclehead, but he's surprisingly sensitive, you know? He just can't bear to see anyone else off. After all, he can't age, you know? So every time I saw him, I was painfully aware of just how old I'd gotten. He always looks like he feels so bad about it. So that is a huge reveal, and it confirms another thing that we thought about Yuji when we saw a panel of him a couple chapters back, is that he is still young and that he can't age, which is really cool because, let me just put it out there, he for sure is going to come back into the story. regardless of what we're going to be talking about at the end of this chapter, Yuji is going to come back and he is going to fight Dborah. Even Gege can't fumble this. Yes, he has set up many things in the original series that never went anywhere and had disappointing outcomes, but this is not going to be one of them because that would just be evil. However, it's just going to take us a little bit to get there. Now, as we also talked about before, Yuji probably hasn't aged because he's not like really a human. He's kind of like a human curse hybrid, curse womb, Sukuna vessel thing that Kenjaku made. So he's special. Also, Dborah saying that he might look like a muscle head, but he's surprisingly sensitive, you know? Yuji was muscular, I guess, originally. You know, not like what you would say a muscle head, even by anime standards. So I guess this implies that he has gotten much larger over time, which would be pretty cool to see like a big buff Yuji. I mean, he didn't really look buff in that panel that we got of him, but maybe he is. And also this is telling us that Hannah, who is like Angel or the vessel of Angel, has died, which is understandable. I mean, most of the original cast should be dead or dying at this point since they're all like in their 80s, 90s, or 100s. And let me also point out that in the spoilers that we did, it made it seem like Megumi had died, but no, Megumi is still not accounted for. We don't know if he's alive or dead, but I'm sure he'll be mentioned or come back at some point since Dborah is in this chapter. So, you know, we got to go through the whole original trio, right? But anyway, it's not Yuji who's being chosen because they can't find him yet. So in the interim, it turns out that they've chosen Ruka? Also, trigger warning from this point on, I'm going to be calling Yuka Ruka. I don't know why I was saying that. Maybe I was thinking about Rika's ring in relation to her and like my wires were getting crossed because, you know, I'm an idiot, but this is really going to trigger a lot of you. So just fair warning, I'm going to be saying Ruka a lot. So I have so many issues with this. First of all, the way that they're depicting Ruka in the final panel here, which is obviously trying to parallel to Yuta. That's fine and all, but this is like unearned. This is not who Ruka is. Now, granted, it's been 2 months since we saw her, and this might have something to do with Usami. Like maybe Usami died because of the cursed speech recoil and it just made her go cold or something. That remains to be seen. I don't really think we got an update on Usami yet. He might just still be in the cursed coma or whatever, but this just seems rushed and unearned. For some reason, I just don't like this. It has that real like bro thinks he's on the team type of energy, and I like Ruka. I've said that since the beginning. I think she is a good character, but this is just, like I said, unearned. And also, why is she being selected to fight Dborah? Another meme I'm getting from this is coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb. Now, I know I'm getting ahead of myself. Not everything has been explained. It's been 2 months. Maybe she's special grade level now, because all it took was like 1 month for all of the characters to get ultra powerful at the end of the original series, especially Yuji. I mean, granted, he had to fight Sukuna and then have the end of series MC, you know, out of nowhere power up too, but is Ruka getting this as well? Why is she being picked? Do they literally have no one else on Earth who is a better candidate? And also, I don't even know if she has Yuta's ring. You know, the Rika ring, which was highlighted in the first chapter. It was like handed down to her kind of, but then it was also given to Tsurugi and she asked Tsurugi for it. I don't know if we got an update on the ring, but even then Rika is not enough to take down Dborah. Like Dborah could easily solo Rika. So I'm not really sure where this is going. I mean, I guess Gege has some kind of plan for it. And I know that Ruka is dying. She has like a brain tumor or something, and she only has a couple months left to live. So now that we're 2 months into the future, maybe she has like 3 months or 4 months, something like that. So it's understandable why she's gonna nominate herself, but it just, this is just kind of frustrating. I know we're eventually gonna see Yuji fight Dborah, but why make us go through hoops like this? Just put us on a Finding Yuji arc or something. And also, I mentioned this, I think 2 chapters ago, or maybe in the last chapter, but this series is going to be very short because Gege said that it's only going to be like 3 volumes or something. So we're halfway through the series at this point. And I would have liked the Finding Yuji arc, but maybe there's not enough time for that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. And if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one.